Hey everybody, welcome. It is the RambleCast. This is September 27th. I'm starting late because, what do you expect? Good to have you all in the chat. Austin, Diablo, Carson, great having you guys here. So it is quite the day. We're actually having news today. That actually happens from time to time. So by the way, I have a few topics lined up. Pretty much the meta announcements. I'm gonna knock around Unity for a little bit. There's a little bit of iPhone conversation that's gonna come up, and I think that's about it. But if anyone else has anything else to mention, or anything worth it, or worthy of discussion, throw it in the chat. We'll see. We might get into that too. And no Corbin today. He let me know, well, kind of last minute, that he couldn't make it. But hey, it happens. So, let's see. Yeah. So, meta. That's kind of our... That's kind of the craziness for today. Oh yeah, I could cover Made by Google. Oh yeah, that's true. That is next week. I kind of forgot about that. Well, I didn't forget about it, but I've had it in my mind that that's coming up next week, but I kind of forgot. Oh yeah, that'd be a good thing to talk about today. But I don't know, we've kind of bounced around so much of the stuff the last couple of weeks. There might not be much else to say. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, so let's see. Yeah, do it this week so we could skip next week. That's sadly, weirdly true. Everything has presumably been leaked, though I'm holding out a little bit of hope that the leaks may not be entirely accurate. We kind of know they're not complete, but honestly, I'm more interested in how they're going to pitch stuff. That to me is kind of the bigger discussion. Is a lot of what Google has on the leaked spec sheets. It's definitely interesting stuff, but a lot of it was predictable. Nothing in there is just like, except for the 7 years of support, nothing in there is like shocking, or not particularly shocking at least. So yeah, I don't think too much is really expected to change from that. Like the Pixel 8 is not going to be this like off the charts crazy phone that nobody saw coming. It's right now, it just kind of looks like a relatively iterative step up from the previous year, and that's it. So yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I'm really looking forward to how they're going to try to sell it, because I think that's going to be the bigger topic. The interesting things, I'm scrolling up in Discord to find these as I go. There's the Super Actua display, which, the big selling point is it's going to look better in direct sunlight, which, okay, that's neat. But what are they going to say about that? Like, I know when I'm thinking about this, all I'm thinking is, oh good, it'll just look better in sunlight. Or I think that's how most people would see this. I'm curious if, one, they're going to talk about what this actually means. Like, what technology is going into this? How is it doing this magic of looking better in sunlight? Or is it going to just be a brighter display? Which seems to be kind of the pitch, is it's just a brighter, or it's capable of being brighter. And I'm kind of curious if they're just going to casually say, oh yeah, it just it's better in sunlight. And is that going to be where they stop, or are they going to give examples? Are they going to really talk it up in some other way? Austin, I had a feeling you were okay. Let's take a look at this link. Ooh. Oh, that's not what I was expecting this to be. Honestly, I was expecting this to be an Ars Technica article explaining what a super actuate display is. Yeah, this is... So, Austin's... Oops, I need to switch views. Okay. The link Austin posted, smartphone sales down 22% in Q2, the worst performance in a decade. So, I mean, I could read this article, and I'm sure it's going to say exactly what I'm about to say. It's not hard to imagine this to be true because, you know, for one, the economy sucks right now. A lot of people don't have money to spend on a smartphone, so the only time they're going to spend money on a smartphone is if either they actually need to replace it because, like, their old one is broken or actually too old, or if, like, it's a requirement for work or life in some way, like something changed and they just genuinely have to have a new one. Or something warrants the upgrade. No, I think a lot fewer people are doing this just because, like, ooh, new shiny. Not to say there aren't still plenty of people doing that, but you know, those people are in the minority. So, you know, it's the way it goes. The other thing is, I mean, look at the iPhone that just came out. Show of hands, who thinks that that's a revolutionary iPhone? It has USB-C, which, you know, phones for how many years have been USB-C? That's kind of a redundant thing at this stage. It's not really... It shouldn't be news. It shouldn't be special, but because it's Apple giving in, there we go. And there's also the what was it? The Tetra Prism, whatever it was called. The prism that they're using for the periscope camera. It's good, but again, it's been done. So, you know, these are improvements. I'm not disputing that they're improvements, but they're improvements that feel very iterative, like default level iterative. So, and then you can look at Samsung's latest phones. Is there anything there that's not just, oh yeah, we upgraded the processor and we swear the cameras are a bit better. And now Google's is about to release a Pixel 8, which, you know, they'll probably make the cameras a little better somehow, but not a lot. They're going to make the display a little better in sunlight. Okay, that's nice. They're going to, and they're going to add a thermometer to the Pro models. So you can figure out if you have a fever, maybe. This is it. Like, who here is rushing out to buy a phone because of these things? I'm not hating on it. They're improvements. Sometimes you can't do like revolutionary changes, but the need for people to rush out and buy a new phone right now is kind of on the low side. This is like the perfect, you know, in that classic like TikTok year in, year out cycle. We're very much in like the biggest talk cycle there is. Right now, it is the biggest not let down, that's the wrong word for it, but it's the slowest moving year, or slowest moving portion of the year coming out of Q2, certainly because a lot of people are waiting on the iPhone. But I mean, just in general, like we're in kind of this perfect downturn moment. I say perfect, but we're in this downturn moment where nobody needs to make an upgrade. If you have a phone for the last 2 years, it's probably perfectly good You're still getting updates. You're probably still happy with what the phone does because, shockingly, you can go grab the latest phone, compare it to a phone from 2 years ago, and you're going, yeah, they're pretty similar. New one's a little better. Or maybe not, actually. The new one might be a little worse. But that's it. Like, we're kind of good. We don't need every update anymore. Okay, so really quick, looking back at comments, because I kind of skipped a lot during that whole spiel. Awesome. I'm sure Google will have a heartfelt marketing clip for it. Oh God, yes. And I dare say that's half of what makes these fun. It's like watching the Super Bowl. Who here watches it for the game? Obviously, I'm kidding. I know some people do. But, come on. A lot of people watch the Super Bowl just for the ads. That's what we're going to get out of this whole thing. Carson, off topic, but it seems Apple's iPhone trade-ins for the 15 aren't that great either. Yeah, or for the 15 Pro. Yeah, they're not wonderful this year. But okay, I've had this theory going for a little bit. I think all the companies' trade-ins have just generally been kind of bad lately. Maybe, oh yeah, Samsung's were this last time around too. The trade-ins, like the direct trade-ins to the company for their phones, have just generally been garbage at least the last year, maybe it's the last 2 or something like that. It's always the carriers that offer the good trade-in deals. So if you're willing to go onto a plan and you're willing to trade in your old phone, you can get a pretty good return on it. I mean, look at famously, if you go to Costco and get an iPhone 15 Pro on AT&T, you can actually get a Pro for free. It's the whole bill credit BS, but yeah, I mean, that's actually a pretty great deal. But it's specifically Costco with AT&T, and you do still have to trade in a phone. It's a great deal, but holy crap. And because it's AT&T, they have that whole weird thing where your trade-ins are valued at like nothing, but as long as it's valued at over like, I don't know, I'm guessing like $36 or whatever, then it counts as just free trade-in from there on. So, but how they do their valuations is just so backwards. Anyway, let's see. Awesome. Can't wait for Ron's piece saying Super Actuated Display is just AMOLED. Oh, I'm sure it will be. Yeah, it absolutely will be. Somehow it's getting a brighter backlight or something, but that's it. Awesome. Still hearing $699 and $999 starting price for the 8 and 8 Pro. Yeah, I'm still waiting on the price. Because, I mean, we've had this discussion in Discord multiple times now. I honestly think that if they raise the price of the Pixel 8 Pro, especially with the really meager things that they're going to do to it this year, that's kind of crappy. I totally understand it if they raise the price of the 8, the regular 8. Because everybody has said, and all the signs point to, they're being really, really competitive with that price. They want to get people to get the regular Pixels. And then the Pros are kind of, honestly, like, I feel like the Pros are subsidizing the regulars at this stage. It's kind of a thing where it seems like they're only really going to make a profit on the Pro. Which, I mean, I get it, but I also kind of hate that. Like, I don't like the idea that the Pro model is basically kind of a tax on anyone who wants that model for legitimate reasons, as opposed to people who just buy the more expensive model. And I don't know, that maybe that narrative's off, but it kind of feels that way. But yeah, if they raise the price of both, kind of crappy. Let's see. Yeah, the thermometer is just bananas. I can't wait to see how they try to pitch that. And I mean, is it really just going to be, hey, here's a way you can check if you have a fever? Like, that's useful. Legitimately, it's useful. I know a lot of people who don't even keep thermometers in their house for finding out if they have a fever or not. But, you know, what is this really something that needs to be in the phone? Unless they find a clever way, or not clever, but unless this can be used as a thermometer for other purposes, which I don't think it will be, because you have to hold it really close to your target. Unless it's a thermometer that can be used for other purposes too, I feel like it's not that useful. Oh yeah, okay, and Carson said something like that just a couple lines down. Yeah, if it can be used to measure like the temperature in the room, that's kind of neat. That I actually would be sort of into that. To an extent. I don't think that's great, but it'd be something. I was thinking, like, I know that this is a ridiculous long shot because, again, you have to hold it so close, or seemingly do. But I wonder if you could use it to, like, check the temperature of, I don't know, let's say a pot while you're cooking, or I don't know, any number of other things. Like, this to me feels a lot more useful. I want to be able to know surface temperatures of various things more than I need to just check my own. Like, if my MacBook Pro is running hot for some reason, I'd kind of like to know what the surface temperature of that is. I don't really need to know my own temperature very often. So yeah, this feels like something that, again, it's a gimmicky feature, and I sort of wonder if it'll still be there in the 9. Like, will people decide that this is cool and useful, or is this going to be kind of like Soli, where they stick it in there, try to pitch it as something cool, and then turn around and are like, yeah, no, never mind. It's nothing. Yeah, the next Soli doo-doo. All right, let's see. Austin saying, technically the sensor can, but I don't know if Google is using it for ambient temperature. The video will be heartfelt. Yeah, that sounds about right. Carson, they should have waited until Pixel 10 with the improved G5 to justify the price. Yes. Yeah, that I could get behind. You know, it at least make it feel like there's a reason for the price increase, because right now everything that has leaked doesn't feel like it justifies it yet. Let's see. Carson, seems like something that should be on the Pixel Watch instead of the phone. You know, I don't remember where I heard about this, but there was one of the companies, kind of feel like, damn it, I want to say it might have been Samsung, but it was somebody. They started talking a bit about the challenges that they had with making a smartwatch, and part of the thing that they said is ambient temperature was one of their bigger challenges. Not measuring it per se, but the effects that ambient temperature had. And so they were doing some weird things to get around that. And I kind of wonder, why doesn't a smartwatch have an ambient temperature sensor? Because that would be 100% useful. It's probably way more useful than it being on the phone. Not to say it shouldn't be on the phone. That's great value, honestly. But it really does make sense as something that you'd have on a smartwatch. Especially like I think of going on a run. You go on a run, and depending on where you are at, like, it'd be kind of interesting to know the ambient temperature. Like, as you're running through, just for example, like, maybe you start out in an area that happens to be, like, super sunny and warm, and then you go running down into this, like, through a tunnel or cave or something like that, and it's, like, cold as can be. Like, you might actually have a reason for looking at this. You could still have your phone with you, but if you don't, that'd be, that'd be a thing. Anyway, plus it would also honestly give a little bit more purpose to actually having a watch. The smartwatches, I believe me, I'm still a fan of smartwatches. I love them, but it does feel like something that the list of useful items is not the highest. Let's see. Nils posted the thing in general. PlayStation leader Jim Ryan to retire after 28 years with Sony. I have no real thoughts about that in particular, but might talk a little bit later about the Sony hack. I meant to look into that, but the rumor of a Sony hack is maybe interesting. Carson, tensor might make the sensor overheat. So you're thinking that that this year Pixel might have the same problem iPhones are having? Because that is practically all I'm hearing now, is people complaining that the iPhone 15 is having a tendency to overheat. Or maybe not overheat, but it's getting too warm, or warmer than they feel like it should. Which, not the greatest sign. Let's see. Who was Verily? I actually don't remember that name. Quickly looking. Oh, yeah. That's right. It was their, quote, precision health company. Yeah, I don't really know much about what's happened with it, but it does always seem strange that Google hasn't made more efforts to sort of take advantage of the other properties and do more sort of cross property products. Anyway, so let's see. I suppose really quickly, just to take a look, what did the chart say in Ron's article? Apple's down 20% for Q2, which, I mean, they were about to release the iPhone 15, so that makes sense. Let's see, Samsung is down 27%. That actually is maybe not... Well, that feels surprising, actually, because they should have still been riding on... Oh, I don't know. I guess the S23 had already been out in Q1, so they probably had lost a lot of their sales by Q2, but I don't know. Let's see, Motorola down by 25%. That's pretty... That I can't think of... Well, I don't think they had any particular reason for anything to come out, so that might not be surprising either. I don't know TCL's release schedule at all. Wait, the only one in this list that went up is Google. Is that right? Google shows a 59% growth. Everyone else, negatives. Huh. That's something. Yeah, David, exactly. Google is most likely eating into other Android OEMs market share. That's exactly what's happening. they they definitely ate up somebody's cake. It's not like that's a big amount. I mean, this chart plainly shows Google is the smallest of the names listed, and so yeah, you know, it's kind of telling that they're not eating a lot of anyone else's share, but they're eating some of it. Let's see. Okay, so Ruth, who I admit I don't know either. So she is the CFO, about to be CIO and president of Alphabet. That's interesting. Austin is probably all A series sales that they make practically nothing on. Oh yeah, I don't doubt it for a second. But let's be honest, the A series, at least in part, is they may not make anything on the hardware, but they're still trying to keep people sort of within the Google ecosystem. So selling drive storage, other services, they can kind of collect a little bit more data and do a little more marketing to Google A series phones. Pixel A series phones. And then there's also the potential to upsell to the regular and pro models somewhere down the line. So, you know, it's getting people in the door, even if they're not making much off of them on the hardware. Carson, forgot TCL even makes phones. Yeah, I don't blame you on that. Honestly, I really barely noticed that that they still exist. I know that they do. It's not like I've forgotten them entirely. Just they never part of the conversation, or at least not that I ever really notice. David, hilarious that Google is only at 2%. Yeah, that was last year. This year they're at 4%. The Q2 2023 market share is 4%. The market share last year was 2%. So they've not actually doubled. If you look at the shipments, they haven't doubled the number of phones that they're shipping, but because of the decline in the number of total units sold and the fact that they did increase their shipments by quite a bit, actually they increased their shipments by about 50%. They went from roughly 800,000 units to 1.2 million units. So they went up a lot. They actually did a really, really big jump. That was solid. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, 59%. So it was more than 50% increase in their total units shipped. So yeah, their market share went up a lot, comparatively speaking. Like, Google is actually making really big waves in Q2. That is still the key thing here. This is just measuring Q2. It doesn't necessarily represent how the rest of the year shapes up. So, you know, we'll see. That's not the total story yet. But yeah, the marketing is working for them. That's exactly it. They've figured out how to get attention. Plus, it helps that it really does help that the A series comes out at exactly that time. So they're kind of picking up the slack where other companies currently don't have great new things launching. But you know, to be fair, again, Samsung launched the S23 not too long before Google got out its A series phone. So, oh no, Carson. I saw that. Read the comments. They're like his kids. I am so dreading what this is going to show. Do you have some examples I should look for? Because I don't... like, there are a few too many of them here to really fully check. Oh no, what was this? Oh. Okay, I think that's fine. When you get a notification, it's like, oh no, what is that? Oh, try sorting by votes. Oh no. No. I'm dreading this. Okay, so let's viewing them as a fun new gadget and more of a computer that's an expensive pain in the ass to replace. Actually, I will throw in, I dread setting up a new phone now. The time it takes to set up a new phone is just miserable. Because the backup and restore process is not good, or not good enough. Sorry, it's good for some people. It's not good enough, to my opinion. Let's see. It's not just the novelty that is worn off. Performance and camera quality improvements have become very hard to spot, and if people don't see the difference, they're not eager to spend as much money on something that's barely any better. I mean, this is something I've kind of been banging on about a lot, so hard not to agree with this. In the end, it's good for the environment. Would be great if people replace them as rarely as possible. Also a common theme of this show. The soon-to-be released Pixel 8 is rumored to have 7 years of support, which is just crazy for good longevity. Yeah, I mean, sort of solid points here. Yeah. 19 years on that person? You agreed. That is a crazy long time. But yeah, regardless, don't get me wrong. I've seen some wild comments appear on ours in the past, so I'm sure if I go reading through enough of these, there are going to be some pretty unusual takes, but let's see, as I kind of skim over, I'm looking for keywords that'll jump out at me, and I'm not seeing any yet, but I'm sure. Okay, so I'm bringing up the pandemic. That's, I guess, as a lot of people upgraded their phones during the pandemic, most of them are discovering that the last couple generations of phones, all right, this is actually pretty reasonable, because it's also something I've said quite a few times, especially because of a lot of the timing factors that kind of played in. A whole lot of people suddenly chose to make phone upgrades either just during the pandemic or right after, or well, not right after, but you know, about a year later. Let's see. Oh, hey Cosmo, how's it going? Welcome to the first RambleCast that you'll be catching. To be fair, these go on a while, so buckle in if you're gonna stick around. Oh, and sorry, Nils, I meant to say hi earlier. How's it going? But let's see. Quickly skimming comments because I know I missed a few in there. Diablo, your mom is on a 4A. You look forward to upgrading her to an 8 or 8 Pro. Well, that's nice. Out of curiosity, and like, I'm not judging this decision, but would she really care? Because I mean, obviously, like, sorry, the jump in generations will be great, but would she actually mind if it's like a 7A versus an 8? Because I've noticed a lot of people seem to be really big fans of the A phones. So you know, I mean, I'm certainly not trying to stop you from getting her a better phone, but I'm not sure that it will stand out. Let's see. David, soon enough they'll overtake TCL and Moto. Honestly, dead serious, I'm shocked that Moto is still as high up as it was. I mean, really. How Motorola is still shipping well, I guess 8% market share. How? I never see anybody with a Moto phone. I've at least seen people with Google phones. Not many, but I've seen them. So yeah, 8% is wild. But let's see. Okay, skipping down a bit. Diablo, she doesn't care what she uses. Okay. But yeah, okay, that's fair too, though. If the Pixel 8 is going to have 7 years of support, then that would actually very possibly justify jumping to that one instead, because if she holds onto her phones long enough, that extra support term will make sense. Google's getting back pings now. Nice. And let's see. The second part of Cosmo's first comment was Son recommended about Meta Quest. My Meta doesn't even let me log in. Is a limitation, or why is that? I haven't really heard complaints about that, but in a weird way, it wouldn't surprise me either. Carson, people probably use their stimulus checks for phone upgrades. That I don't know if you heard this, but that was actually a thing. Like, there were a lot of people who very publicly said that that's what they were using their stimulus checks on. And phone sales, if I recall, went up during the pandemic, like, noticeably, because a lot of people were like, oh, hey, I now have money that I didn't have before. I'm going to spend it on the one thing I use all the time, which is my phone. Cosmo, you contacted support and they won't help you? Okay, that actually sounds very much like Facebook. Or, well, Meta. They're terrible at human support. That's crazy, though. I wonder why it won't work. Part of me is wondering if you could... it's one of those things, like, does it need to be attached to your account, or could you just create, like, a second account just to make the Oculus happy? Or, well, Oculus Quest side of it happy. It's not even broken, it just says I don't have Wi-Fi yet. That's really weird. As strange as it is, I would almost suggest seeing if you could initiate... I mean, I'm sure it's probably out of warranty now, but just see if you could, like, initiate a warranty service. Or not, like, go all the way through the steps of sending it in, but just try doing that so that maybe you can trigger their support staff. I don't know. Diablo, unless they surprise us and give us a 7A and older phones with longer support, would be neat. Okay, so that's something I've actually been wondering about. If they do extend the support term to 7 years on the new phones, why not also backport that support to the previous phones? Because they will now be updating the operating systems to do this. They don't necessarily need to do it with OS updates, but with security updates. They could... It seems well justified that Google could do it with security updates, because they're already going to be now supporting those older versions of the phones with security updates. Or sorry, not older versions of the phones, but older versions of the operating systems. So they might not do it for certain years, but like anything that would have to be supported on the new phones, it kind of makes sense to do on the old ones too. I kind of doubt they'll do it, but you never know. And hopefully they'll announce something to that effect. Nils, you're seeing more and more Pixels in Europe? That's great. Kind of surprising because the prices are so high, but that is cool. It's a very confusing process on Meta. I genuinely don't. I've tried dealing with customer service at Meta a few times, or Facebook. Well, I hate calling it Meta. They are horrible, truly horrible, and I've never needed it for like actual customer service, not really for myself. I've tried contacting them for other reasons, and yeah, they're just completely useless. Even reaching a human is basically impossible, and because everything they want people stuck in their automated systems. Let's see, Diablo and laptops for school during pandemic too. Now that sales dropped, yeah, no, there are documentaries about how bad that situation is, and we've talked about it on the RambleCast. I don't know, a half dozen times now. The situation with Chromebooks at schools that were purchased just before or right around the pandemic is a disaster. Let's see. Cosmo. Okay, so you've tried to create a second account, still doesn't work. You've tried a live chat with Meta, but their workers are stupid. No, that actually sounds about right. The few interactions I've had with them have not been positive. For what it's worth, I've never actually had a good interaction with anyone that works at Meta. Now that I think about it. Because I've also been approached by Meta a few times by their recruiters. And every single time, their recruiters actually name the wrong place that they think I work at or have worked at. Like, they literally... I've been contacted, I believe, 3 times by them. And they've always said, oh, we love your articles on. And then they list some site I've never worked at in one place. Or one time it was actually offensive that they named some little junk site that I've never even heard of that does, that was like regurgitating garbage. Like, come on. What is happening here? You guys are worse than spammers. At least spammers can usually get your site name correct. So yeah, no positive stories with Meta when it comes to that. Ironically, we still haven't even gotten to that discussion yet. But yeah, I have a feeling that you just really need to do like a hardware reset, and maybe, I don't know. I can't think of a better solution than that. Nils, you bet all Tensor phones will get 7 years. I'd hope so, but I'm still skeptical. What I'm thinking will happen, hopefully, is, if nothing else, I'm hoping that they at least extend the support on the Pixel 6 and 7 and the A series to go with them. Does it have to reach 7 years? I don't know. That's debatable, but I feel like they can at least extend support another year or so. That's just good PR, and there's no reason not to now. Like, they actually have a good excuse for doing this. And I've mentioned this in Discord once or twice too, and I hold by this. There is actually a really big bonus to the fact that Google is presumably going to do this. If they do push it to 7 years or anything close to that. There are a lot of other companies that do fairly vanilla style firmwares for their phones. All of those companies, for the most part, really just push the firmware updates about as long as Google does. So if Google stops supporting AOSP at a certain version, I'm just talking security updates, by the way. If Google's security updates for AOSP go longer, a lot of those companies will be able to do the same thing with almost no work. Like, they have to do a little bit, but we're talking the extent of, like, they really just need to do a pull, do the integrations, which generally speaking should only take like an hour, 1 hour out of 1 day per month, if that, and they should be able to spin up, like, do their build and push out firmware updates for all of their phones. This actually should be pretty easy for a lot of companies to do. So yeah, I mean, just now that Google is, well, we can't say now that. If Google pushes to 7 years, even with just security updates lasting up to 7 years, there's no good reason we shouldn't see a lot of other companies turn around and say, okay, our security updates are now going to go to 7 years, or at least close. Get it to 5 and 6 years for those budget companies. That's gold. That's what we need to see happen. Let's see. Cosmo, you might do a factory reset, but don't want to lose all the VR skins. Are those not attached to the account? Because I would think that wouldn't make you lose them, but if you do, that's crappy. Or is there a way to back them up? Maybe check on backup as a possibility. Did you hear the Sony thing may be fake? Sony also is taking actions on their part to protect the PlayStation data. The hack that was rumored, I was already skeptical of it. Not that I think it isn't gonna a possibility, because again, Sony's history with hacks is terrible. They've been hacked so many times. I don't know how many people remember this, but there was the whole thing where all of their corporate communications were hacked, and including emails that they had traded with tons of people. And that's where they had the whole thing about like Sony and Angelina Jolie were at odds. Sony hack Angelina emails. Yeah. This thing. In an email exchange with former Sony Pictures co-chairman Amy Pascal, mega producer Scott Rudin called Jolie Pitt a, quote, minimally talented spoiled brat, as well as a camp event and a celebrity. She said she didn't read any of the emails about her, but somebody told her what was in them. I mean, come on. That's not a good look. But yeah, the Sony hack, if it's true, oh yeah, and the interview, the whole movie got leaked. Yeah, that was such a disaster. And yeah, that's just one of many times it has happened. So I got a sneaking suspicion that, like, even if this, well, sorry, let me take that back. Assuming that the hack is real, it wouldn't be surprising. And the reason why it's easy to believe it's real is because so many people kind of just have reason to think it actually happened. Let's see. Metaworkers sound like scammers. I mean, it's hard not to when yeah. I won't finish that sentence. Who knows, one of these days I might actually have to take a job there. Let's see, Diablo, or maybe at least 5 years OS and not just security for 7 and 6. Look, honestly, don't get me wrong, like, I want to see longer OS updates. But I can live with 4 years of OS updates and 7 years of security updates. I think 5 years of OS would be best. Absolutely. Like, that is game changing. And it would push a lot of support up for phones. But hey, if they only justify 4, it is what it is. But getting to 7 years of security updates would be huge. Diablo Meta picked up a lot of Twitter workers. Yeah, I imagine so. And then we had massive layoffs, so they probably fired a ton of them too. Cosmo, nice. Awesome. And we're probably getting Linux kernel updates too, or at least soon. Yeah, we'll see on that one. Google has a bad history with that. Let's see. Wonder how Fuchsia's going now, since they can do their own kernel. Last I heard, Fuchsia was... Well, we talked about it on the RambleCast a few weeks ago. Fuchsia's not looking great because a lot of their hardware, or a lot of the hardware built on Fuchsia, is kind of doomed. And so it's starting to look like they're not going to move any more products that direction. And whether or not they keep making products based on Fuchsia, a little harder to judge. Let's see. Austin with this link. The new EU regulation requiring longer full support 5 years for mobile devices is going to be fun. Companies will have to update their kernel to a newer version over the lifespan of the device in order to stay in compliance. Based on what? As I heard recently in a meeting with one Android vendor, quote, Android updates consist of over 2,000 programs updated to the latest version. What's so hard about adding one more to it? Yeah, that kind of tells me that Android vendor doesn't understand something. So the requirement from Android to have a 6-year supported kernel version is now gone. Maybe we don't have to do it upstream either. That will make so many people very happy. Also, Apple has been doing this for a long time for their devices. Why do people feel it's somehow impossible? I don't think anyone out there is saying it's impossible. What's the failure, I think, in the logic here is, well, wait, what EU regulation requires that this includes the Linux kernel? It seems like the regulation that I'm aware of, or as I'm aware of it, only dictates that they have to be getting supported. That doesn't necessarily dictate that every piece of software has to be the latest version ever. Let's see. So, next comment. Yes, the 5-year period starts much later than what almost all Android companies currently feel they need to support, which again is going to force them to have to update their kernel to a new version to stay in compliance, as there will not be a secure supported kernel that lives that long, and no Android vendor can actually do it on their own from what I've seen and heard from them. Let's see. Longer OS and security updates also helps the phone's resale value. Yeah, it does. Not substantially, but... Okay, what is... Mashal. Some big news dropped this week that could have major impact on Android security down the line. The LTS long-term support period for the Linux kernel is being cut down from 6 years to 2 years. Okay. Yeah, that probably could have just linked to this. Linux's 6-year long-term support was meant to help embedded devices. They say they're too much work. Wait, did I not fix that? I thought I did. Okay. So in 2017, the kernel jumped from 2 years of support to 6. Now, 6 years later, it turns out that's a lot of work. ZDNet reports that the Open Source Summit Europe this week, blah, 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 that they'll return to 2 years of long-term support. The plan to... does that really still count as long-term support? Yeah, that is a unhappy penguin. The plan to cut back down to 2 years isn't instant. The Linux community is still honoring the current end-of-life timeline, so each of the previous ones will still get 6 years of support. But new kernels will only get 2 years. Even this 6-year window was supposed to be an optional thing when it started, with the release page facts saying each new long-term kernel usually starts with only a 2-year projected end of life that can be extended further if there is enough interest from the industry at large to help support it for a long period of time. Okay, so Corbett says there's really no point to maintaining old kernels for that long because people are not using them. The other big problem is the burnout from maintainers, which are often unpaid and could use a lot more support from the billion-dollar companies that benefit from using Linux. Classic story. But what about Android? Okay, so here's the significant part. 2 years seems like a fine support window for PCs, but what about Android? The original long-term support extension was mainly made with Android and Internet of Things devices in mind. It was announced during an Android Linux talk by Google developer Ilya Malkev? I'm not sure. Actually, could be Malchev. Sorry, Ilya. I don't know how to say your name properly. The problem was that on PCs 2 years ago, 2 years only represents the time between kernel updates, so that's a fine timeline. Embedded devices tend not to update the kernel, though, so those 2 years represent most of the development cycle and the entire consumer support window, and that's not long enough. The original picture Google painted in 2017 was that phones take 2 years to be developed and that the kernel is locked in near the beginning of the engineering process. The long-term support kernel would be hitting end of life right around when the phone finally shipped, and customers would use obsolete kernels for the lifetime of their devices. The Android kernel development process is a whole pile of forks. First, Google forks from a new Linux LTS to make the Android common kernel. Then that is sent to SoC vendors like Qualcomm and forked for each model of SoC. Then that fork is sent to device makers, which fork it again for each model of device. It takes a while, and yes, they're all forking each other. What a forking disaster. Okay, quickly skimming comments. Linux is just pissed at Google, and rightfully so. I mean, yes, there is plenty of rightful reason to always be pissed at Google, but I'm not sure how much of this is justified versus maybe a little bit like aiming to be petty. Like, I totally get that the maintenance cost is not worth it, but it feels like the way that they're framing this might be a little petty. Let's see. So, are things better in 2023? I don't know about that. The Android kernel docs have a Linux compatibility matrix for each version of Android, and Android 14, releasing any day now, still supports launching new devices with Linux 5.4, a 4-year-old kernel. Actually, yeah, okay, that does make sense. That's going to start a new Windows support, remember, so even with a paltry 2 years of ownership, that's a 6-year-old kernel. That's also just for new devices. You can upgrade to Android 14 from Linux 4.14, which goes back to 2017. You can see how Google arrived at the 6-year number. It's hard to know what every cheap Android phone is doing at any given time, but I assume these are all supported because they are still needed. There are also smartwatches to consider where things are even worse. The Pixel Watch is so ashamed of its Linux kernel that it's not even listed in the settings, but the device launched in 2022 with Linux kernel 4.19, a 4-year-old kernel at the time. Oh, is it? Sorry. I have a bunch of stuff I do manually whenever I switch over, and I always forget something. In this case, I typically, I tried to play the music a little bit louder during the music, and then I try to remember to bump it down one notch when I transition over, and I sometimes forget. Let's see. There are also smartwatches to consider. Yeah, okay. The Pixel Watch launched with the 4-year-old kernel. Android's big advancement since 2017 is the GKI, Google's generic kernel image, which cuts down on the fork of a fork of a fork Android kernel development process. That first fork, Android Common, adds all the Android compatibility stuff to Linux, so this still happens with the GKI, but fork number 2 and 3 are for hardware compatibility, and the GKI instead moves those to modules. Further out, there's a plan to move to mainline Linux. Even GKI phones still don't do major kernel updates, though. You get minor LTS security updates, but the Pixel 6, the first GKI phone, launched with Linux 5.10, and is still on Linux 5.10. That's a 3-year-old kernel. If this trend keeps up, when it gets its last security update in 2027, it will have a 7-year-old kernel. Google has said before that major GKI kernel updates are in the plans eventually. There's even mention of major kernel swaps in the documents, but the landmark of updating a production consumer device to a major new GKI version is not something that has happened yet. Rumor has it that the Pixel 8 will have a longer support window, so maybe we'll see kernel updates launch with that phone. I mean, this has been batted around for years, that there has to be some kind of a fix. I gotta admit, I'm skeptical. In a way, yes, they're going to have to solve this to some extent, but strictly speaking, going back to this, I don't know what part about any EU regulation dictates that they have to update kernels. I certainly think that they should. That's a good thing to do, and the benefits of doing so would be there, while the drawbacks are not that significant. There's shockingly little drawback to getting those updates out there, so I'm not really sure what the problem is. Anyway, so yeah, we'll see. But if Google is going to push up to a 7-year release cycle, I wonder if this feels like a long shot, but I wonder if Google will just stop updating the kernel when they stop doing OS updates, and then the security updates just simply become, or just simply remain security updates. And that assumes that they'll start updating the kernel at all. I'm, again, still somewhat skeptical of that. But we'll see. There's a lot to figure out there. Also, oh, never mind. I just spotted something that I wanted to mock, but it actually makes sense. Let's see. If the kernel's easily updatable in the future would be neat. Is that going to be mainline? I at this stage, I feel like I don't actually know anymore what mainline is supposed to be. I felt like I used to know. Now it seems like the term and intent have changed, at least in enough ways that I no longer feel confident saying what it is. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, I've always wanted to see them update the kernel. It's been something that when people first discovered that that was a thing in Android, that the kernel was just never updating, and that we were sitting on really old kernels. At the time, even I didn't know about it, and I think I wrote in an article once basically saying, oh, you know, this will obviously get updated soon enough. And then, like, more and more people, a few people had already known that it was a thing that they didn't update it. And yeah, it kind of got hashed out in comments, and I mean, that's when I learned that the kernel was kind of a mess in Android. Diablo, yeah, they do funny things with the Play Services system updates too. Yeah. Some good, some bad. But hopefully, in some way, shape, or form, the kernel will become one of the things that just gets regular updates. We'll have to wait and see, I suppose. Let's see. So, funny enough, going an hour, and any of the topics I was actually going to talk about have not been touched. Weird how that goes. But yeah, it is funny how with the Pixel 8 coming, the topic is mostly not the Pixel 8. Has anyone noticed this? The topic is not the Pixel 8. No one's, I mean, I can't say nobody cares, but very few people are actually talking about the Pixel 8. Everyone's talking about the 7 years of support. That's the thing everyone's interested in, which is, one, honestly, it's kind of damning for the Pixel 8. If people don't care about the hardware and the features that come with the phone, and granted, it hasn't been announced yet, so, you know, we're still waiting on that. But people seem way more focused on this one aspect that has very little to do with the actual phone. So, I mean, is that maybe kind of a bad look for the Pixel 8? Or is that a sign of maybe poor sales coming? Because as much as I love the idea of them moving up to 7 years of support, I don't think that's a reason why anyone should update to the Pixel 8. It's just a reason for people to be excited about the Pixel 8. It's a reason for people to say, oh, hey, great. Now next year when I actually want to do my upgrade, then that phone, the Pixel 9, is going to have a long support cycle. Or, you know, people who would look at the A phone are going to be excited about that. It doesn't stand out to me as a sign that they're going to be excited for the 8 itself, though. Imagine they do a video like Apple's event for safety, but for the thermometer. I hope so. I hope they do some ham-fisted thing about how the monitor or the thermometer is going to save lives. You know, we need to have somebody get up there and say, "Oh, you know, I wasn't feeling well, so I used this, and I found out I had a fever, so I tested for COVID, and sure enough, I was sick. Please do this. Google, I am begging you, make this happen. It will be mocked relentlessly, but it will be so funny. It will be so funny if this happens. Oh, I feel bad saying that, but also it's true. So anyway, well, enough of those. I suppose we kind of have to talk about, well, I already promised it. Let's break into Meta, because this was the big announcement for the day. I'm actually just going to use The Verge's live blog, the remnants of their live blog as kind of the jumping off point for this, because they did announce, I believe it was 3 things: the Quest 3, AI chatbots, and what else was there? Yeah, sorry, I've got a bunch of tabs open. Carson, we're equipping hospitals around the globe with free pixelates. Oh, that would be rich. Cuts down on thermometer waste. Oh, jeez. No. No. Okay. What else was there? I even remember in my head locking in that there were 3 things that they announced. Now I don't remember. Okay, well, we'll get the the quote unquote smart glasses, which was the thing with Ray-Ban. I think that was the other thing. Okay, so a few just hitting a bunch of these kind of in reverse order. So oh wait, actually maybe yeah, let's just go reverse order. I'm lazy. Carson. Okay, what is this? Oh yeah, no, that was one of the tabs I have open. And I'll hit chatbots after the MetaQuest stuff. So yeah, they did do, oh yeah, this is great. I watched this earlier. So their comparison between the Quest 2 and the Quest 3 graphics. So I watched this video and I couldn't get over how hilarious it was in the worst possible way. So if you watch this, like you can plainly see that wait a second. Oh, I know why that is. I never fixed the cropping on this scene. That's the problem. Or a problem. Hold on 1 second while I adjust this to where it's supposed to go. Kind of. Yeah, it's still off, but I don't need to get it closer. Okay. So what stood out to me is this video about the quality between the Quest 2 and the Quest 3. It actually looks way better on the Quest 2, not because of the detail. You can definitely pick out that the Quest 3 has more graphical detail. But what jumps out at me so much is it actually looks better on the Quest 2 because they have a fog effect that honestly just makes it look better. It is super contrast, like there's really bad contrast on the Quest 3, which is on the right side. The left side actually looks way better, which is definitely not the intended result. And graphically, it's not the prettiest game in the first place, so, you know, I'm not sure they got what they wanted out of that. They probably could have or should have picked a different game. But let's see. Carson, you saw the Verge hands-on for the Quest 3. The camera pass-through looks pretty decent. And yes, that's kind of what I wanted to really land on, is the pass-through is great. The fact that they have it is great. I love that. I approve of that. It's something that I think was really important with the Quest Pro. Or sorry, not Quest Pro. With the Vision Pro from Apple. It looks like a really good usable version now of pass-through, whereas the Quest 2's pass-through was garbage. So yeah, it's a good start. The fact that their AR looks, well, their mixed reality AR, whatever you want to call it, looks like it's not good. It's not good enough. That's maybe an issue. But yeah, it's good that they've figured out that this has to be a thing. Just pass-through is kind of a necessity in order to get a good experience. Though the quality still looked not quite good enough. Like, you're still probably not going to be able to read small print on things, or not small print, but moderately sized print on things. Let's see. Carson, you don't know what games those are, but the graphics look terrible on both. That is, it was Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. It's on both Quest 2 and obviously it's being upgraded for the Quest 3. So, or are you talking about the stuff from the hands-on? I guess that might be what you're referring to. Yeah, she could operate her phone, but that doesn't mean that it's really giving you good enough to, like, actually read. Like, if you're, not that anyone should do this, but if you wanted to sit down and, like, read an article, you might not, I don't know that you get enough good visibility out of that. Like, reading an article on your phone through the Quest Pro. Again, you probably shouldn't need to do this, but, you know, if you had, like, a text message come in or something, you're going to get relatively small text. So, you know, being able to read a text message through the Quest Pro through the Quest 3 without taking it off would be the goal. I don't know that you necessarily need to get too much more precise than that, but, you know, at least that level of precision would be good. This did stand out to me too. The MetaQuest store is up to $2 billion in lifetime sales. Yeah, I'm sure that is probably probably about $1 billion in purchases of Beat Saber. I don't know what else people are buying, but I have a feeling it's a few of the same games. And what they're definitively not spending money on is that, I can't think of the name of it now, but that terrible like Second Life clone that Zuckerberg has been pushing. The Metaverse. Yeah, sorry. Took a little too long to remember that name. But Metaverse has made practically nothing in sales, as we have all laughed about. And so this just goes to show people do want and like VR. They just don't care about what Meta itself wants to make. Let's see. Has to be only Beat Saber and VR fishing. That actually sounds about right. But to kind of carry on with that hands-on that Carson mentioned, that hands-on video, and I'm not going to show it just in case, but that hands-on video I thought was really telling, because the reviewer, on the one hand, I think the reviewer was maybe going into it a little cynically. Don't get me wrong, I'm cynical about it too. Instinctively, I think that anything Facebook is going, or Meta is going to announce, is probably kind of bad. And I don't have a good reason for that. I just think that because at this stage, I kind of just expect it to be bad. One second. Just moving. Good. That's not in frame. Something just flew past my face, and I'm setting the zapper up so it can take care of it, maybe. But yeah, while I genuinely do question if the reviewer was maybe too cynical, I also can't help but also be cynical. Sure, they updated a lot of stuff, but they still haven't really fixed the fact that it is an uncomfortable headset. It may be more comfortable than a lot of others, but it's, still a heavy duty, front heavy headset. And it's got 3 straps on it, which, is a thing. It's still, it's still not impressing her, at least. And there's nothing about it that really jumps out at me as really fixing any of the problems with VR. So I guess I'm waiting to see what they do with the Pro 2 at this stage. I don't know. What's going to make people enjoy this that much more? And I don't know. Maybe those are unfair questions. Maybe people will love this one, and some of the complaints of the Quest 2 will actually truly be solved. It's hard to say, but I can't tell if the cynicism is because this is meta, because that's justified. Is it because this wasn't really as big of an upgrade as it sounds like it should be? Is it because meta tends to do bad stuff? Hey Corbin, how's it going? Yeah, do you want to join in the stream now? And yeah, I don't know. I'm questioning what is the reason why she is cynical. It's hard to judge. I don't know if that's her going in cynically or if it's actually after using it realizing, yeah, this just isn't solving it. It's not making it good enough. Still doing random tasks? All right. Okay, so anyway, what else was there about the heads? Well, presumably about the headset. Also, apparently Zuckerberg did do an interview where he talked about AI, the Quest 3, and he did also talk about Threads. So people who are interested in Threads may want to check that out. I honestly have not opened up the Threads app in a couple months. I don't know. Whenever it launched, I was opening it for the first maybe week, and then I kind of moved to I opened it maybe a handful of times after that, and like over the next couple of weeks, and after those first 3 weeks, I don't think I've opened it since. So I actually have kind of checked out of Threads. Though to be fair, I also have not been opening Mastodon at all, or very little. Nothing against it. I've just been busy with other stuff. Let's see. We don't care about the charging dock. Okay, so the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses. I'm not going to say a lot about this. I'm just going to reiterate what I said before. There's the Snap glasses. Corbin, you'll have to talk about your iPhone 15 for too long next week. Are you sure? Because we're going to have some Google stuff to talk about next week too. Let's see, David. At least they look decent. They do, kind of. I mean, here's the thing. Wayfarers are already kind of chunky glasses. So I actually think that makes sense. That it's not a bad choice to go with Wayfarers, specifically because they're the kind of thing that actually it makes sense to have as a chunky pair of glasses. And yeah, these are a little bit better technically and visibly, like aesthetically. They are better than previous attempts at something like this. But such a big but on this. What's special here? They're basically an action camera with a kind of crappy sensor, comparatively speaking. And that is, like, I'm not hating on. Oh, by the way, Carson, you say colors, man. Yeah, for this photo for sure, but apparently there's 150 different frames and or colors. I think that was the number. Let's see, do I have this open in something? No, I guess I don't. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of come back to this and say it's a camera that knows how to upload the video to somewhere. That's not really special to me. It's a decent product. It has a place to exist. I don't have anything against it for that. It's just this isn't really smart glasses in the way that, like, they give you anything back. They're just speakers with the recording device. So yeah, I don't know. Again, not hating on it, just I don't think there's anything special here. Sorry. Anyway, so let's see. You can pre-order. There's more about the glasses. Wait, what the hell? Okay, so Zuck said that there will be a software that will come to the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses that turns them into a true AR device, even though these glasses themselves don't have a screen. All right, so he's on drugs. That's great to know. Maybe it's the same drugs he was taking to get ready for his fight with Elon. Okay, there's more about the AI chatbots, which I will still come back to. Oh yeah, they're using an XR2 Gen 2 Snapdragon for the Quest 3, which is great. You know, it's a solid chip. It's still going to be mobile graphics, but hey, that's solid. Let's see. Okay, more about the glasses, but pretty much the same points. Okay, more about chatbots. Okay, we're near the end of the first page of stuff, but I don't know that there's much point going to the third, or to the second page. Okay, so let's talk about the chatbots. First off, yeah, there's this video. Make sure I've got that sort of centered up. So there's this video that is shown, and Carson linked it, which, thank you for this. It is something cringy as can be, where it has done these AI generated faces, and they move, and they say things in the voices of these celebrities, and when you watch, stuff just looks so... It definitely has the uncanny valley weirdness to it. It has... These are characters who have different names, but they are based on specific celebrities. And it is just weird. It is uncomfortable. It's obviously fake in not wonderful ways. And before people try to sex them. Oh god. I'm sure people will be. But my question is, how many people are going to be sexting Snoop Dogg right there? Come on. Someone's going to. Oh god, I was about to make a joke and I realize immediately I don't want to make it, so I'm just going to avoid it. Oh, I can't. He's gonna be the Snoop DADDY. Anyway. Um anyway. Oh, sorry, I had to. But apparently there will be there will be some kind of an AI studio so people can manufacture their own chatbots that are in some ways similar to this. I don't know that they will have the same full level, but yeah, it is apparently a starting point for developers. And one of the things Meta is apparently saying, I don't know where I'm gonna find this quote, but I believe, actually I can close that one now. I believe it was on this page. Yeah, it was this last bit. Which, oh, as a small point, when I loaded up this article and saw this takeaway section, my immediate thought is, oh no, Meta has been bought by Valnet. Censored Snoop Dogg? Never. No one would ever think to censor Snoop Dogg. Anyway, but this bottom bit here, and admittedly, I didn't read the whole article because, frankly, I figured their takeaway section is going to probably say everything we care about anyway. But it says that these new AI experiences also come with a new set of challenges for our industry. We're rolling out our new AI slowly and have built-in safeguards. I mean, are you really rolling them out slowly? Because it seems like, yeah, as this Verge headline puts it pretty succinctly, Meta's putting AI chatbots everywhere. Really? They're going to appear in literally all of their messaging, all their messaging services, WhatsApp, Messenger, and Instagram. They're going to be, I believe there was something about them being present in the Facebook feed. And so Diablo, it was 420 not that long ago. But yeah, if they're going to be putting this pretty much everywhere, all over Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram and Messenger, it doesn't sound like they're being rolled out slowly. And there's going to be a studio so you can do your own things with them. I don't feel like this is a sign that they're rolling it out slowly. So this feels a little disingenuous. I mean, what out of Facebook isn't disingenuous, but it is what it is. So they're also, it seems like they are pushing for these little AI stickers. Oh, and also they're going to be doing, they mentioned here it's going to be image editing, but they're also going to be doing, which, by the way, image editing, cheers. Upscaling of images, yes. Facebook's famous for destroying images. Its algorithm just brutalizes them. And actually, now that I'm seeing what they're doing with this filter, yeah, they're kind of brutalizing them here too, but... And I know that's supposed to make stuff look like watercolors, but still. But they're going to be doing... well, and this demo kind of shows it already, but they're going to be doing actual AI image generation. Let's see. I think it was it this one? Yeah. They're going to be doing the same thing that you get out of... what are the names of them? Damn it, I'm suddenly blanking on the names of them. The big image generator tools, which are named... Damn it, where are they? I know one of them... Oh, Midjourney is one of them. The other one was... I know Dolly is mentioned there, but Dolly was garbage. Um, uh, the other one was, it had two names, or well, two words in the name. It doesn't matter, but it exists. Just, I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. If you can't think of the name, then you're in good company. Diablo, Google's gonna want to do AI stickers. Yeah, 100%. I'd be shocked if they weren't already building this feature. Let's see. We're waiting on AI wallpapers for Android 2. Yeah, that's right. We are still waiting on those. I forgot that was still in the list. But they were so dumb. They weren't AI generated. They were just emoji wallpapers. That I think is one of the things that might actually irritate me the most. There's nothing AI around what they were building. It's just a thing that makes a wallpaper generated off an emoji that you pick or something picks. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, we're getting kind of this weird thing where they're going to go with image generation, which I kind of don't. Oh, is the emoji wallpaper already out? Okay, well, if it is, it should be. I mean, it was a simple enough thing, but I know it was at one point when everyone knew it was supposed to be out, it had not come out yet. I don't know that I ever heard about it coming out after that. Anyway, I can only imagine how much Facebook probably paid these celebrities to let them use the likeness. And I kind of wonder if this is going to be sort of like when Google started using, or when Google had John Legend's voice for Google Assistant for a while, but it was a temporary thing that got that was eventually going to be shut off. And they've done this with a number of celebrities. Is this going to be the same kind of thing where all, like, right now you'll be able to use let's just stick with Snoop. I mean, Snoop is clearly the best in this bunch. You'll be able to use Snoop Dogg as your chatbot, but then in, let's say, a year, does the contract end and all of a sudden Snoop Dogg goes away? Like, that's not the best outcome. Also, come on, Snoop Dogg's the best in here. I do want to play D&D with Snoop Dogg now. Like, that is just a thing. Let me play D&D with Snoop Dogg. I mean, come on. And can I just say, not just play D&D with Snoop Dogg, but it has to be a Joe Magledy. I can't say his last name right now. But the guy, the actor who plays D&D very famously, like, he is Hollywood's best DM, basically. Mangaliano? It's something like that. I'm sorry, Joe, if I'm butchering your name. I have not looked at how it's spelled in probably about 2 years, so it's just not coming to me. I'll talk with Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade. But yeah, so there's some interesting stuff here, but the obvious question does become, how much of this is gimmicky and how much of it will people actually use? Don't get me wrong. I think when this stuff rolls out, a lot of people are going to hop on and start using Messenger just to toy with this. And a whole bunch of people are definitely going to use the image generator because it's free. That's the whole thing. It's going to be sort of Mid-Journey, but free. That's the interesting thing about it. And if you're willing to work around it, you can basically use it, presumably kind of a little bit like Photoshop. In some ways, like in that demo it showed it was this one. We're talking about somebody cut out a transparent section in the image and then said surrounded by puppies, And lo and behold, it figures it out. So it's capable of doing some of the same stuff that Photoshop is doing. So, you know, honestly, I can see a bunch of people using tools to do cutouts from images and then just drag their stuff in to Facebook, do a basic image generation, and lo and behold, you have something for free that would have cost you money if you did it anywhere else. And I'm sure people build tools that just sort of sidestep having to actually do any of this stuff using Facebook's interface. That'll take a matter of hours, maybe a couple of days tops. And there will be a tool that you can just like drag and drop your image onto that will do all the work, and it'll just feed it through Facebook's system. So yeah, I'm just thinking that this is going to be a this will be one of the few useful things, but I don't think Facebook's going to get the benefits that it wants. Let's see. So this is cool. It's interesting, but how much use is it going to get? And what is Facebook getting out of it? That's kind of what I also don't understand. Is Facebook doing this for a reason? Are they getting something? I don't think they address that. And if, sorry to put it this way, but there's, I think, a reason Apple is not jumping onto doing a lot of this stuff. It's because, and yes, I know the news just came out this week that they're dumping $4 billion into an AI company, but it's, to me, telling that that Apple is not jumping into this because they don't see a way that this equates to money. And that's what Apple's thing is. They want to make things that make money. And yeah, like, in what way? In what way do they have money being made with chatbots unless you're actually charging for usage? Okay, I just saw what I got as a notification earlier. Some of the things that get said. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So their chatbots, interesting. I'm curious, but not curious enough that I'm gonna probably go use them. And does anyone else see this as being a special thing? I'm kind of curious. I don't feel like there's a lot about the chatbots that is going to interest me, except again, if we can somehow get Snoop Dogg to run a D&D campaign, in which case, sign me up. I want to play this. I want to try this. David yawn. So pretty valid. It's hard not to agree with that. Is exactly the point. Also, I wonder how much you can screw with their AI chatbots. Like, could you get, I don't know, just for example, could you get Kendall Jenner's Billy to hop in and start giving you football tips from Tom Brady? I'm just saying, like, why not? Can't wait for the safeguards to be broken. Yeah, that was one other thing that I certainly found amusing. They claimed that they spent 6,000 hours. Was it 6,000? Quote, red teaming it. Yeah, I feel like they probably 6,000 hours sounds like a lot, but I got a funny feeling that probably wasn't enough. There are going to be people who pop in there and they're going to convince it to like give military advice. That it's only going to take a couple of the right prompts before you turn it into how to do some very, very bad things. Or they're going to get it to give people advice to like go jump off bridges, or I don't know. The list could be endless, but yeah, I just a hunch. I don't think that this is going to be that locked down on topics. Diablo, did they put a teenager on trying to break it? If they haven't yet, they should. Because let's be honest, every high school computer lab in history has had somebody crack into it at every occasion, because it's literally the job every teenager is meant to do, is to somehow crack their high school networks. But yeah, it's interesting to see another company jumping in on this, and I'm sure it's going to boost a lot of their stock value. Let's be honest, that's a big chunk of what this is about. But is it going to make a big difference? Meh. I mean, we'll see. It doesn't sound like they really have an intention for the product yet. And that's where this stands out as a problem. I think Google's experiments in AI have more to do with research and development. So they don't mind the fact that it's going to cost them money. I think Microsoft is trying to really make AI part of their actual product lineup. They're using it to enhance the products they already sell and make them more attractive. Adobe, same story. They have products that they're already selling, and they're trying to use AI to make them more profitable as products. These things make sense to me. I think there is good, valid argument for saying, okay, yeah, let's push products because they can make money. What Facebook is showing us here is maybe an excuse to keep you on the page a little bit longer, and you might see a few more ads. And okay, that's valid. But is this stuff really going to equate to the money? Like, is it going to compensate for how much it's costing them? I kind of doubt it will. But I guess we'll see. Let's see. I'm just scrolling back up through here to see if anything jumps back out at me. But let's... No, not that. Okay. Okay, I think I've hit almost everything from their event now. Yeah, so, okay, done with the meta stuff. Alright, it is 5. Alright, I may go a little quick, but I've got a few more things to hit. So, a follow-up from last week. We have to talk about Unity. Oh, Unity. So, I'm sure everybody remembers. There's not much point to going back over this story. But Unity, of course, did their whole... Carson, take it easy. Have a great night. And see you again soon. And enjoy Europe. So, with Unity, what happened was, of course, they announced a new pricing model that was ridiculous. It was basically a bait and switch. It involved charging developers more money based on installs, and it was just a mess. And they already have a system in place like that beforehand, but the new one was a lot more aggressive, and it basically it threatened to make a lot of developers not just unprofitable, but possibly even literally costing them money. They have since released an open letter basically apologizing, not apologizing. The original thing was a damage control letter, and it basically apologized for the complications that they've created, and said that they would release some new rules soon. So they've released this open letter that basically spells out the new terms, and it's not bad, but it's not great. And I think overall we've Unity is not going to save face, even though they've corrected and come out with something that probably effectively is the right thing that they should have done in the first place. So the new thing, if well, I don't want to go over all the terms, but the basics are they're still going to have a system where if you sign up for, or if you're going with any of the paid models, you can basically have so many installs, and that's great. If you are making up to a certain amount of money, then it activates, basically you're obligated to start paying, and it is still a per install fee, but it's going to be self-reported, which sounds iffy. I have a feeling that they're still going to be monitoring a lot of the games that come out and trying to find out from people what the real reporting is versus what they want to self-report. But okay, you know, let's assume that that's all okay. To me, the most important thing is they have reverse course on the bait and switch aspect of it. So no longer will any current or old version of Unity have the new pricing model. Those will all stay under the previous pricing model. The new pricing model starts with a version of Unity that is going to ship next year, and so that sort of solves that. That I'm okay with. I think that was something that they should have done from the start, and if they had, I'm just going to throw this out there, if they had done that from the start, they probably could have pitched the pricing model that they already announced, and I think a lot of developers would have said, okay, well, we'll think about it. We're still not sure that we're going to use it, but we can at least think about it. The moment that they screwed up on this by making it a bait and switch, that's what really screwed them. So, oh, and they are also giving the option of a revenue share as opposed to being charged per subscriber that way, or sorry, per installer. That way, if you're not, basically if you're making very little or you're making no money on a game for whatever reason, then you might not actually have to pay anything, or you might pay very, very little. So there are some valid options here to work through this. Yeah, this isn't great, but it's not enough in a way. Like, look, I think companies have to be able to make money, and I don't blame them for that. If they had come out with a post saying, sorry, we recognize that this isn't going to work for every developer, but we really still want to work with all of you, and we've realized that at the rate of development we want to achieve, it's no longer sustainable under the current pricing model. So for future versions, we're going to adopt a new pricing model, or changes to the pricing model, some sort of increase, whatever. If they had done that from the start, I think a lot of people would have said, okay, well, we're not happy about it, but we get it. And if they could have just then come up with something that's reasonably approachable for people, most of them would have accepted that. Instead, this came as basically a surprise attack on a lot of developers, and very understandably, most of them hated it. So yeah, I think they botched this. And I don't remember who said this, but so I apologize. I can't credit whoever tossed this comment out first, but there's really only one answer to this. And it sucks to say, but developers are very... They can't trust Unity anymore. They've now reached the conclusion that basically this was an attack on them. It's a threat on their future, because they now know the current management, the leadership at Unity, is sitting there very genuinely prepared to do a bait and switch. Like they're they were on the brink of getting sued into oblivion, in fact, probably because of this. There were going to be actual class action lawsuits coming up aiming at Unity over this. So honestly, I think there was only really one way there's only really one way to fix this. And it sounds harsh, and I normally would never call for something like this, but really it's the only solution. The existing leadership has to resign. That is kind of the only answer here. No one is going to trust them ever again. And frankly, even if they resign and go to another company, I'd be skeptical anyone's going to trust them. But the notion of a bait and switch on a tool that you're reliant on for your business, and it is very unsustainable to ask all those developers to suddenly drop it and change to a different thing. That's devastating. This was going to, and probably even in just due to the uncertainty, this probably has now actually killed a number of businesses. The only way to come back from this is to get rid of the people who are responsible for that decision. And so, yeah, I honestly, I think that's the only way Unity earns back or wins back enough trust. Literally, someone has to, at least one person has to fall on the sword, and probably a few. Oh crap! Sorry, Carson. You're probably gone by now, but I missed the part about a couple days left in Prague and then off to Vienna. That sounds so nice. Anyway, let's see. David makes it easy to avoid purchasing any new Unity games. In the meantime, I mean, until stuff went into effect, yeah. That being said, like at this point, I wouldn't want to punish the developers. But I don't want to punish the developers by blocking out anything that's made on Unity, but at the same time, I am generally kind of expecting / hoping a lot of developers will switch to other things. And it's not that Unity was the best anyway. Sorry to say it, but it's kind of true. I understand why a lot of people chose it. It is lighter weight than Unreal, but at the same time, there are other options. So anyway, Diablo True, they'll take everything with a grain of salt from them if they're not gone. Yeah, again, I'm not trying to hate on anyone that uses Unity. As we've all heard, well, probably many have heard at least, a lot of the developers that work there even said that they were against the plan, or they hadn't heard about it until it was announced, so they were taken by surprise too. And a ton of Unity's developers all said that they're not okay with it. So this was made by somebody at the top, and it was a poor choice. They obviously did not consult customers either. That is the most staggering thing about this. So yeah, I think they screwed up, and unfortunately, I don't think anybody trusts the company as long as they remain there. Okay, let's see. So enough of that. Okay, the next thing, this is really quick. I do not have a lot to say on this, but The Verge had this interesting article. Dan Seifert posted it. It's interesting. It might be a bit of a weird take, but it is basically saying don't get an iPhone 15 Pro case right now because a lot of the cases are not made properly to handle the new action button. And basically it goes into the fact that the cases that exist end up like this, or some of the cases, not all of them. They end up with this cutout to reach a button that is itself barely sticking out. So you end up having to really just like jam your finger. Wait. Oh, I thought one of those pictures, maybe not. No, okay. When I first looked at this, I thought he was in one of these shots. Yeah, this one. I thought that the person holding it was trying to jam their finger into the case, but no, it is just holding it. Anyway, yeah, the complaint is that there are a lot of cases coming out with cutouts and you can barely reach the button. There are others complaining that they're covered up or whatever. And some of the cases that have come out actually have metal buttons, kind of like you do with the volume buttons. And that's the way to hit this button. And of course, the problem is, everybody knows, is the Switch used the deep cutouts. Yeah, deep cutouts are, I mean, I get it, but they're also, this is a problem you get with them. But the issue here is people the companies themselves can't really make a proper case if they're not getting the 3D, or sorry, not the 3D, but if they're not getting the schematics of the outside of the case with any rules about what they can and can't use. So you have a situation like this where everyone knows the basic dimensions of the phone, but they don't know what's going to be there. So they just know a control that's going to be here. That's not good. And I mean, I get it, but this does introduce a lot of problems. And so it's, as this article points out, this is costly to companies. It's environmentally unfriendly because a lot of the cases that are going to be made are now going to end up getting thrown out, just straight up destroyed, or not even destroyed, just, tossed in a trash can, because they have a dumb cutout instead of a button. So, Apple, the company that's so proud about how green it is, literally just created a little micro disaster because they won't work with companies. They won't share with them enough details to actually build a proper product, which, if you're asking me, is pretty much the perfect sign that Apple is valuing its privacy way over actually doing the right things. And let's be honest, honestly, look at all the companies out there. Who cares about a button? If Apple had just told each of these companies, hey, we're going to be doing a button this year. It's only on the Pros. It is going to be a button. Here's how much it sticks out from the device. Here's what you need to know about it. We're not going to tell you how it works, but make sure people can hold it down. It doesn't just need to be a click, it needs to be a hold down. And no, it's not capacitive, so don't worry about that. That's it. That's all they had to do. How much? Imagine for a second that leaked. Who cares? For one, it already basically leaked, but they could have informed every one of their case manufacturers, at least the ones they partner with, hey, this is going to be a thing. You should be forewarned before you make any units. Make sure that you've got this aspect changed or designed around. No one cares. Literally nobody's going to care. The announcement about the button had nothing to do with it being an actual effing button. Not really. I mean, obviously it's relevant. But nobody cares that much. It doesn't matter if this gets out. If Apple could have straight up, I'm just saying it now, in advance of the event, let's say 2 months in advance, if they had said, hey, just so you know, the Switch is going away on the Pros, it's going to be a button. Just publicly acknowledge this. Don't say any more than that. Just publicly acknowledge it. They could do that in public. Who cares? It's not hurting anything. It's not going to destroy their ability to announce what the button does. And that's what everyone cares about. Not enough people are going to care that you're moving from a switch to a button. And it's not giving any competitive advantage. No other company is going to be able to turn around and say, oh my God, we can't believe it. We now have to change our entire strategy because Apple moved from a switch to a button. No, literally nobody. Literally nobody is going to do anything about this. So this is dumb. Okay. One final Apple thing, and then my voice, I can feel it hurting. My throat is definitely going to hit its limit right. Actually, it has hit its limit, but gonna go just an inch further with apparently, as of today, there are leaked details about the iPhone SE 4. So apparently it's going to have an action button, USB-C port. The USB-C port kind of... Well, okay, I'll come back to that. And Face ID. So, just starting off on the USB-C bit, very notably, this design is going to be apparently based off the iPhone 14, which, hey, that's pretty updated. And so... one might reasonably say, but the iPhone 14 was a Lightning phone. Shouldn't it have Lightning? Obviously, they can't do that because the EU would rip them a new one. So no, we're full USB-C from here on out. I think everyone knows that, but just iterating it for the sake of having it said. So it's going to presumably have a 48 megapixel rear camera. Let's see. It's presumably going to have an OLED panel, which this is sounding like an actual pretty beefed up iPhone SE 4. They're going to get rid of Touch ID and move to Face ID. Let's see. From the look of this, presumably it will have a notch, not an island, which good, fine. I see no reason for it to go dynamic island. And let's see, was there anything? Oh, and yeah, according to this headline, action button. So I do think that's an interesting choice. So they're going to have the iPhone 15 Pros that have an action button. The regular iPhone 15 does not have an action button. It still has a switch. And then you're going to have the SE4, the budget phone, which has an action button. So they're doing something wacky with this decision. And I kind of get it, but I don't get it at all. It kind of feels like they're really stabbing iPhone 15 buyers in the back on this one. And it's not a big deal, but it's a big enough deal. That being said, how much is this going to be? I believe we don't know that yet. Yeah, I don't see anything about price mentioned here. And I doubt I'm not even sure Apple knows. Yeah, it's hard to say, but I'm really curious what's going to end up with this phone, because it seems like it might actually be good enough to justify raising the price a little higher, which also kind of hurts the notion of it being an SE. So we'll see. It's already gone up. I think both times an SE came out, or I know at least once. Anyway, so there's a lot to look forward to with this phone, but I can't shake that feeling that this is weirdly kind of a downer for iPhone 15 buyers. just because it is so much kind of like too good of a phone for the fact it's going to cost so much less than the 15. That said, I wonder what the odds are that they would ever possibly take a trade-in on a original SE to get the 4. Because I know they won't. I'm sure they would never take it, but it'd be interesting if they would. Come on, Apple, do that. Do that. I dare you. All right. Anyway, so much like a slap. Yeah, I feel like Corbin probably in a 6 months to a year, Corbin's probably going to be kind of mad about the 15. What do I think about the Amazon lawsuit? So I have not read the details on this yet. I just saw that the FTC, was it? I think it was FTC is suing them for, what was it? Unlawful business practices. FTC, yeah. Autocomplete really nailed that one. Oh, and 17 states. Holy crap. Okay. Let's see. Who do we want to pick? Let's go Axios. Oh, good. This even has bullet points. Thank you, Axios. You're making this so much easier. Okay. All right. So it is an antitrust case. Okay. Why it matters. Much of the public, along with the media, shares a visceral sense that tech giants like Amazon, Google, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft are way too powerful and ought to be knocked down a few pegs. But for better or worse, you don't win an antitrust lawsuit based on gut feelings. I wouldn't say that's entirely true, but sure. Driving the news, the FTC's Amazon suit lays out detailed charges that the company's practices have raised prices for consumers, blocked competitors, and stifled innovation. I would also argue that they've been negatively impacting their manufacturers and providers. It will now be up to a federal judge in Washington state to decide whether the case and evidence are strong enough to rule that Amazon should be liable for damages or structural remedies like limits on its conduct or even some kind of breakup. Let's see. So the Justice Department's antitrust suit against Google, which is now being tried in Washington, D.C., there's a long list of complex hurdles that the government has to clear in order to win. It has to prove that Amazon is a monopoly in specific markets. The FTC's lawsuit defines 2 markets in which Amazon has a durable monopoly. The online superstore market and the online marketplace services market. It's an interesting way to define those markets, but sure. Then it has to prove that Amazon used its monopoly powers to harm consumers and competitors. Well, that's a given. The FTC lays out detailed claims that, for instance, Amazon's exclusionary anti-discounting conduct artificially boosts prices and its rules for sellers to coerce them into using its fulfillment services. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see that. These charges can sound persuasive in the pages of the FTC's 172-page lawsuit filing, but Amazon is about to unleash all the lawyerly energy that a trillion-dollar corporation can afford to buy. Its lawyers are likely to question every assumption, definition, and number in those 172 pages, which is why antitrust trials are notorious for their length and their lack of drama. So, yeah, about this. Anyone who listened to Tech Tales, the one on Microsoft's Internet Explorer, we dedicated, I think it was one whole episode, maybe it was two, just to the antitrust lawsuit. And honestly, we could have dedicated, you could dedicate an entire podcast series to just the Microsoft antitrust lawsuits. There was so much stuff that that they challenged, they poured over details like crazy. It was mammoth. And you got to figure that was a long time ago. Now this is going to be a completely different game. This is going to be a much larger issue. And you've got to figure Amazon is going to spend, yeah, they're going to throw everything they can at picking up lawyers and building out just in an immeasurable amount of evidence. They're going to bore the living crap out of that jury. Like, literally, the jury might die. All of them. From boredom. So, yeah, the thing is, this is going to go on for a long time. And I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon also tries to wheel and deal to get the FTC to drop aspects of it, because that is to their benefit. And the FTC might realize that there are certain angles on this that they just cannot pursue. And that's good for Amazon in every way. The more they can get the FTC to back off on certain things, the more likely it is that they ultimately win in bigger ways. This is still going to cost them. I think no matter what, the FTC is going to win some of the charge. And it's going to have some effect. But I genuinely doubt that they're going to get the win that they want either. I think both sides are going to eventually find that they effectively both lost. But Amazon will not lose as much as they could, which they'll consider a win. And the FTC is probably going to win enough that they'll be able to claim that they got a win. Which effectively just means they're both losers. Let's see. Microsoft famously lost its 98 antitrust case, later mostly reversed on appeal. That's part of the key point here. They did, like so many of the things that they were initially, the initial judgment decided ended up basically being thrown out. So almost everything they eventually got to reverse. So, it is what it is. And yeah, they did actually put up a pretty terrible defense, funny enough. Let's see. So yeah, presumably no tech firm's going to make the same mistakes. The big picture. However, many people may feel that Amazon is too big. Antitrust law is specifically aimed at limiting monopoly power, and tech's current era of rule by a quintet of corporate giants means that there's still a ton of competition out there. The thing is, though, is there? Because, yes, there are 5 major tech giants, but how many of them are online superstore market? Let's see. What was that list again? So Amazon, which is who we're talking about. Google. They're not a superstore market. Apple? No. Facebook? No. Microsoft? Well, okay, sorry. Actually, Facebook, they're not an online superstore market, but they kind of have that like weird trying to be eBay, but not eBay kind of thing. And Microsoft, also definitely not. So none of them fit into this. How about online marketplace services market? I don't like that use of words, but again, we're talking about Amazon. Is Google an online marketplace services market? I don't really know for sure, but I don't think so. Is Apple? Definitely not. Is Facebook? Maybe. Facebook actually might be. So there's at least something that resembles competition here. And Microsoft? I'm going to go with probably know, maybe, but I doubt it. So in these two categories, it's just Amazon. Can anyone name somebody who competes with Amazon on either of these? I mean, the only companies out there are Temu, which I don't think anyone should be rightfully counting. B&H, kind of. There's Rukat, damn it, Rakuten, whatever. Anyway, there's that company that used to be buy.com ages ago. They're kind of they're kind of both of these, sort of, but not really. And that's the problem. There really isn't a competitor to Amazon, not in any practical sense. Walmart is, I would say, the next really close thing, and Walmart's not very good, and it's not very big with its online sales, not comparatively. So I think at this stage we can confidently say, no, Amazon is definitely still, like, Amazon has won this market. They've spent 25 years becoming this behemoth. They absolutely are the monopoly that they're claiming not to be. So let's see. Amazon's retail power is undeniable, but its Amazon Web Services cloud business faces a strong challenger in Microsoft and to a lesser extent Google. Yeah, but the retail power is what we're talking about. Amazon has a dominant position in the ebook market, but its efforts to break into Apple and Google dominated phone business was a disaster. Who cares? It's the ebook market again that is what we're talking about. Tech's big five are in one another's business all over product landscape. Yeah, it is, but it's not. Like, there's a lot of things that each of these companies kind of has ownership on. And that's really the issue here. Each of these companies kind of has one or two things that they really just dominate above everyone else. And other companies mostly aren't involved in. So yeah, the rest of this is all just kind of whatever. It's filler, which is kind of weird for Axios. So what do I think? I think Amazon is not screwed, but not in a great position. I think Amazon is going to be facing enough legitimate scrutiny that they're going to have to make some concessions. They're forced to make some concessions. If they're smart, honestly, if they're really smart, they will approach this and say, all right, we aren't admitting to fault. We're not admitting to being a monopoly, but what could we do that's going to mediate this? What can we do that finds a good happy ground where we can correctively solve this to the FTC's liking? If they were smart, they would start on that negotiation now. Because I think if they approach it and make it, let's be honest, they're not going to do anything on good faith. But if they approach it and make it seem like good faith, they might actually be able to get out of this without anything that is truly going to compromise their control. But that relies on a lot, and I don't think that they're willing to make those sorts of concessions. So instead, they'll end up going and fighting this in court. And when that trial starts, let's be honest, it's not. The facts are on the side of the FTC, but more than that, it's eventually this is going to be a jury trial. It will come down to what a jury decides, and when that happens, a jury is going to absolutely come out of this or well, the lawyers honestly are basically going to approach the jury and say, listen, do you feel like you have a choice in some of your shopping? Do you feel like you have to buy from Amazon? You probably do. So, you know, they're guilty, right? Here, you know what? Let's just take the next 17 weeks and we're going to prove to you how guilty they are. And that's, you know, that's how this trial is going to go. Anyway, with that, my ability to speak is pretty much going to be toast. So I'm going to end this right about here. Before I go, let's see, the going plan, such as it kind of is, I don't know for I know I was talking about doing photo edits this week, and I still intend to, but I don't know that that's gonna happen. It might be like it might happen tomorrow, it might happen Friday night, it might get wiggled into the weekend somewhere. Little things keep changing in the schedule and moving around, and it keeps throwing everything into chaos. So I'm sorry, I keep trying to fit this in and it just keeps not happening. Anyway, I will be trying to do photo edits somewhere in the next 2 to 3 days, but it's hard for me to make any promise there. As usual, I'll be back this weekend for some game streams. There will be some Fall Guys. There will probably be a little bit of Overwatch slipping in there because Fall Guys, I don't actually have a whole lot left to do until the new Fame Pass, Season Pass thing launches in a few days. And yeah, of course, back next week for another RambleCast after the Google event. I don't think switching days. I think just gonna stick to Wednesday because the Google event is Tuesday, is it not? Oh wait, no, it is Wednesday. Okay, well, never mind. So RambleCast will be following the Google event. That works out really well. So with that, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being part of the conversation in the chat room, talking and keeping it going. It worked out pretty well considering the first hour of the conversation had absolutely nothing to do with what I had planned. Let's see. As always, oh yeah, if anyone would like to help support the channel, and huge thanks to those who already do. I see you guys, David, Diablo, Austin, and Carson. Oh, and of course, Curvy. It is certainly appreciated. It really does keep this channel going. And I certainly thank all of you so much. It's awesome. And for those who are listening quietly now, possibly, or those listening later, there are links down below to Streamlabs, Cash App, and Patreon. They're all good options. They all work, I think. If they don't work, let me know. Maybe I need to fix something. But with that, I hope you all have an excellent rest of your night, the rest of the week, as it were. And I'll catch you in Discord for sure, and catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody.